Hello everybody, hope you guys are doing great. Today we're going to be looking at Tropical Storm Cristobal, which has re-strengthened from a tropical depression as of my last video yesterday to now a tropical storm, and it's going to be making landfall with most likely Louisiana or Mississippi, and it's going to have wide-ranging impact all the way from about Texas to about Florida for pretty much the entire Gulf Coast. You'll be feeling some sort of impacts out of that, whether that be heavy rains, whether that be strong winds, storm surge. So we have a lot of different issues with this tropical storm Cristobal, and we're going to be giving you the latest update with this. Today I have my cone of uncertainty, which I made the latest one for today, and then I also put my storm surge forecast in today's video so that you guys can be prepared if you do live along the Gulf Coast. So let's start off here with a very busy National Weather Service page. We'll go from west to east. We have some freeze watches in effect for parts of Oregon and California, mainly the higher elevations, and that's because you're having this big upper level trough that's just digging into parts of the western United States, and that's also why you actually see those severe thunderstorm watches in effect. Those severe thunderstorms are coming out along a cold front that is allowing some of this cold air to come through. We have some red flag warnings for parts of Nevada, Arizona, and also into much of New Mexico. There, we have some wind advisories for much of California and a little bit of Nevada. There, we also have some more wind advisories for parts of Montana and North Dakota. We also have some high wind warnings in effect for, or high wind watches in effect for eastern Colorado, northeasternmost New Mexico, and western parts of Kansas and Nebraska. And then we have some heat advisories for parts of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas there. And then we have some tropical storm warnings and storm surge warnings and tropical storm watches in effect for southern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And I don't believe yet it's not touching the Panhandle, Florida just yet. It might be expanded a little bit further eastward there. We also have some flood watches in effect for parts of Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama there. And other than that, there are no more, no other watches in effect right now. So let's start looking at your current, where your low pressure system currently is. And as of yesterday, yesterday it was sitting just about to make contact with the ocean, and now it's moved quite a bit north, probably a couple hundred miles to the north over the this just from last afternoon and now to this morning, and it's moved very fast. So this is currently, as of when I'm making this video, this is where it is, just right in the center of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's gonna be making pretty much a straight north track to Louisiana from where it is right now. So here is your current 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. You may actually notice that we have another disturbance, and we're not going to be talking about that in today's video, but if we do get something to really develop, you see it's kind of eyeing up the northeast coast, so we'll have to see about that. But if we do get something out of this, I'll definitely notify you guys. They only put a 20% chance within the 5-day forecast, so we'll still have to see, but it'll be something interesting to track if that really does develop, and I'll definitely be bringing you guys those updates there. So we have Tropical Storm Cristobal down here in the central Gulf of Mexico, and then we have this yellow area with a 20% chance of development within the next 5 days. And if that were to develop, it would impact somewhere from about north and South Carolina to about anywhere from about Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or Maine. So it's still very uncertain where that system would track, but it would be somewhere along the mid-Atlantic or northeastern coastline, most likely. So here is your current National Hurricane Center storm track and cone of uncertainty. They're keeping this as a tropical storm all the way until it hits central and northern Louisiana, and then sometime between 7 a.m. Central Time Monday and 7 p.m. Central Time Monday, it is going to transition into a tropical depression, and it will stay a tropical depression all the way even as it crosses the United States Canada border there. So that'll be very interesting. We'll have a tropical depression reach all the way into Canada, and we actually saw that, I believe, with Dorian. Actually, I believe that system actually stayed as a depression all the way until it hit Canada or so. We also have key messages for this event, and I'll read a couple of them out right now. They have four key messages as it starts to hit and impact parts of the Gulf Coast. They say there is a danger of life-threatening storm surge outside of the hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system from the mouth of the Mississippi River to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and a storm surge warning is in effect for those areas. Life-threatening storm surge remains possible in other portions of southern and southeastern Louisiana, where a storm surge watch is in effect. Number two, they say tropical storm force winds are expected by late tonight along the northern Gulf Coast from central Louisiana to the western Florida panhandle, including metropolitan New Orleans, and a tropical storm warning is in effect for this area. These winds will arrive well in advance of and extend well east of Cristobal Center, and that's because usually with these less organized systems, the eastern side of these systems tend to be the stronger side of these systems, and that's why you'll see actually the wind field on Cristobal's eastern side is much larger than the western side. Now for number three, they say heavy rainfall will continue across west and north Florida today, spreading from east to west across the eastern and central Gulf Coast from the Florida Panhandle into Louisiana today into Sunday. This heavy rain will move into the lower Mississippi Valley on Monday. Significant flooding will be possible on smaller streams, especially where heavier rainfall occurs over portions of the Gulf Coast and lower Mississippi Valley. Number four, they say damaging and deadly flooding was already occurring in portions of Mexico and Central America. Additional rainfall from Cristobal will continue to slowly subside. However, life-threatening flash floods and mudslides will still be possible through today. Refer to products from your local weather office for more information. Now, here is the past wind field extent of tropical storm Cristobal, and this is anywhere in the yellows where they found tropical storm force wind speeds and you see, before it hit landfall with Mexico, it had some tropical storm force wind speeds, and then you see, sometime just a couple hours actually after I made my video, where it was still tropical depression Cristobal, it actually strengthened back into a tropical storm. As I said, it would probably in that video I said it would probably strengthen very quickly after I posted the video into a tropical storm, and it definitely did. And now we have tropical storm force winds throughout a large swath of this area, and you can kind of tell how quickly it moved out of Mexico and it started to move up the central Gulf of Mexico. Now, here is your current wind field, and you can see the track of the storm, and you see it started just to the north of Mexico, made impact with Mexico, and then it kind of went northward from there, kind of in a hook shape, and then you see the current wind field extent, and it is a very large wind field extent for now, and it's you see most of it east of where the system currently is in the central Gulf of Mexico. So here is your current chances of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds, and you see anywhere in the greens. In the greens, we have 5 to 30% chance, 30 to 60% chance in the yellow and golds, and then 60 to 70% chance in the orange, 70 to 90% in the reds, and then 90 to 100% chance in those purples. And you see we have those dark reds, 80 to 90% over parts of Louisiana. We even have anywhere from about 50 to 90% chance. So it is a very likely chance that you will see some tropical storm force wind speeds, especially if you live within the southern parts of Mississippi or Louisiana or even Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. So definitely be aware if you live anywhere within this area that could see tropical storm force wind speeds. Now here's your chance of seeing 50 knot wind speeds, 58 mile per hour wind speeds, and you see we have a 5 to 30% chance anywhere in those greens, and you actually see a 20 to 30% chance there for southern Louisiana. Now here's the timing of all that, and you see sometime between Saturday 8 p.m. and about Sunday 2 a.m. Central Time here. So the overnight on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, it will be making landfall. So that would actually be today, and going into tomorrow, early in the morning. It's starting to make landfall, and then you see we have those winds continuing all the way through probably Monday, where you'll have some tropical storm force wind speeds still lingering. Now here is your flight path of your aircraft reconnaissance, and we'll look at this quickly because they did actually find some pretty high wind speeds, and they actually did find wind speeds over 50 knots on the western side of this over a little area. And I I'm pretty sure that it's probably just from a little isolated thunderstorm throughout that area. And I think for much of the storm, you see, right, it's a very tiny area, and then it just goes back to regular 40 knot wind speeds, which is still tropical storm force wind speeds. But you see a lot broader of an area here where you have those yellows. That's indicating 45 to 50 knot wind speeds, and that shows it intensifying, and it's over a much larger area. And you can see how it is definitely much stronger on the eastern side of this storm than it is on the western side of this storm. So here is your storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and then I'll show you mine in at the end of this video. So make sure you're staying tuned all the way until the end. So they're putting 1 to 3 feet from anywhere from Florida to just to southernmost Alabama, and then to about Ocean Springs, Mississippi. They're putting a 3 to 5 foot area within where it kind of curves in throughout Louisiana, and then they have a 2 to 4 foot area anywhere between Morgan City and about easternmost Louisiana. So definitely some high storm surge, and I'll also be showing you my personal storm surge graphic, which pretty much mirrors this, and it is quite similar to this as well, because I do agree with the National Hurricane Center's forecast there. Now here's their model guidance from this, and then I'll show you the European ensemble model and what they're showing in terms of wind speeds. And you see this has all of those models bringing it to Louisiana, and then most of them keeping it in a very tight line until it hits about the UP of Michigan, and then they start to kind of broaden out where they have slightly different tracks there. Now here is what the GEFS ensembles, the GFS ensemble models are showing, and this is the American model, and you see pretty much the same story, but they are a little bit, they do have a little bit of inconsistency there. Now here's the GEPS, the Canadian ensemble models, and you see you have them much more spread out, and the Canadian ensemble models are a little bit less accurate, but it is still good to look at them. Now here is the European model and what they are showing, and the chances of seeing tropical depression or tropical storm force wind speeds. And this is the tropical depression wind speed probabilities, and they are showing a anywhere in those reds. That's about 90 to 100% chance. And you see this is 20 knot wind speeds, and they are fairly certain that all the way through about Arkansas and maybe even touching Missouri, that you'll still be seeing tropical depression wind speeds, and you see that moves further to the north with time. And then here's your chance of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds, and you see it is almost 100% for parts of southern Louisiana there, where much of Louisiana is under that 75% or greater chance. So that is still a very high chance for seeing those tropical storm force wind speeds, and that extends with a fairly high chance all the way until Arkansas and central Mississippi there, and then you see it kind of disappears with time there. So here is your model intensity guidance, and most of them right now it's about 45 knots or about 50 miles per hour, but they are seeing it strengthen just a little bit before it starts to plateau as it starts to make landfall with parts of Louisiana and into the United States. Now here's your rainfall from the Weather Prediction Center, the 1 to 5 day rainfall from this event, and they are showing this pretty much didn't change from their from yesterday's graphic, and they still have a 1 to 2 inch in the yellow, in the lighter green, 2 to 4 inches in the darker green, 4 to 6 inches in the yellow, 6 to 10 inches in the orange, and you actually see a bit of that 4 to 6 inch area stretch all the way from Florida to about Missouri, and even a little bit there in Iowa there. So it is stretching very far to the north, and then we actually have a 6 to 10 inch region for southern Mississippi and southern Louisiana there. So here is your risk of flash flooding. This is your overall 3 day risk, and they put a 5% chance in that green, a 10% chance in the yellow, and a 20 to 50% chance in that red there. And then I'll show you the individual days. So this is for day 1, which would be today, going into tomorrow, and they're putting a 5 to about 20% chance over Florida, and then the parts of the surrounding areas there. Now here is really when it starts to get going, and this is when the day that's starting to make landfall, June 7th all the way to June 8th about. So that would be Sunday into Monday. So tomorrow into Monday there, where you're going to see that landfall, or at least it's coming very close to landfall. You have about a 10 to about even 50% chance in that red of seeing flash flooding within or excessive rainfall within 25 miles of any given location, especially because areas near New Orleans are very or below sea level in many of those areas. So it is very susceptible to seeing some flooding, especially even if you get just a couple of waves to come on shore. It could definitely cause some flooding there. Now here's your day three excessive rainfall outlook, and this is for Monday into Tuesday, and they're putting a 5 to 10% chance in that green and a 10 to 20% chance in that yellow, and that goes from Mississippi to about Missouri as it's starting to move inland. Now here are your current sea surface temperature anomalies from actually this was earlier this morning, and you see we actually have some warmer than normal sea surface temperatures over the northern Gulf of Mexico, and where Tropical Storm Cristobal actually is located throughout this area where it has tracked before. You actually see near normal to below normal temperatures. So that's because Cristobal has really used up all the heat in the ocean, so it's really cooling down the waters. And you actually see this after many different storms track through an area. Those water temperatures will actually cool down, and that makes that area slightly less favorable for another storm to develop within the coming days before that storm. Now, here is your current sea surface temperatures, not the anomalies, the actual sea surface temperatures. And you see right through the track of this, you have 28 degrees Celsius temperatures. So that is very favorable for this type of storm. And 28 degrees Celsius, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's around 85 to about 88 degrees Fahrenheit there. So here is your current the amount of heat content in the ocean, and you see we have quite a bit of it, especially throughout the track of Cristobal. And then let's start looking at my personal forecast. Now I'm bringing this track to about Louisiana. I'm more certain on Louisiana, but I don't want to leave out the possibility that it moves a little bit further to the east and it moves to Mississippi. But other than that, I think it's going to track northward through Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and then move into Missouri, Kentucky, and Illinois there. And then I'll update this most likely tomorrow, or I might actually talk about a different subject for tomorrow's video, probably the severe weather over the Great Plains. Now here's my current storm surge forecast here, and over western Florida into southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and southern Louisiana and Texas. I actually have an under 3 foot storm surge for those areas, and then anywhere in that yellow is where I put a 3 to 6 foot storm surge, and that's where I expect greater storm surge anywhere from Louisiana to about Alabama there. Anyways, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.